Hello, and welcome to the MentorDINO podcast. I'm your host, Katelyn Rossier. I am an architect and founder of MentorDINO. Join me each week as I speak with amazing professionals in and around the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, as we are all part of a larger interconnected community. We discuss everything from career stories, lessons learned, and advice for others finding their own unique career path. Thank you to all of our current subscribers, and if you're new, welcome to the conversation. And if you like this episode, please do me a favor by hitting subscribe, like, or share it with a friend. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support them on their own unique career journey. Welcome back to the MentorDINO podcast. And on this episode, I want to talk about Latinas in architecture. Did you know as of 2023, there was about 121,600 registered architects in the United States? Women represent about 20% of the licensed architects, while Latinas represent just 1.7%, less than 2% of that 121,600 registered architects, which that's definitely gone up in more recent years, but it's still very small. And so I always want to elevate those minority architects for where there's not that many different kinds of architects out there. And creating diversity in architecture is so important. Having different backgrounds, different experiences, different cultures all coming together actually makes better architecture. So this one I want to highlight 4 Latinas in architecture that I've had on the podcast. And I've actually had more than 4. So if you are a Latina looking to get your license or working on licensure or wanting to become an architect, these are amazing professionals to reach out to help you on your career. So the 4 Latinas I have for Latinas in architecture, I've got Gloria Kloter. She was episode number 3. Alexandra Chaves, which was episode number 8. Graciela Carrillo, episode number 47. And finally, Luciana Braga Triplett, episode number 93. So we're going to dive into a little bit on each one of their stories. So then you can learn from them, get a little clip, but feel free to check out their full episode. So starting out with Gloria, again, she was episode number 3. She owns her own firm and has also been a firm owner before she came and immigrated to the United States. So we talk about what it's like to practice architecture in a different country versus the challenges of working in the United States and how codes and everything can be different in bringing up professions that come from other countries. And we also talk about she's got her own book for mothers in architecture if you are looking to start your own family. It's an amazing book. I have it on the back bookshelves. But we talk about starting a business and even how a lot of Latinas in architecture are told don't even bother becoming licensed, and how you should just not listen to bad advice sometimes. So enough said, I want to jump over and let Gloria tell her side of the story. So this again is Gloria Kloter, episode number 3. And so I hope you enjoy her clip.
3 projects that we got, I said, okay, you know what? You're going to do the life safety plans and I'm just going to review them and kind of let you run with it and see how you do, because it's the best opportunity for her to kind of just like actually force her to like fully do it first. And then I just give her feedback. So in total, we are 4 people in my company.
Yeah. And that kind of goes back to when you transitioned from the Dominican Republic and getting used to different areas and codes. Yes. So it's kind of the reverse happening for her leaving the States.
Yes.
Now, I want to backtrack a little bit. How was your licensure process coming over from the Dominican Republic? I know I've heard stories of other foreign architects that try to transfer education and it doesn't transfer well, and then they just end up going back for their master's degree so they can sit for the exams. How was it coming from the Dominican Republic for you?
So I think there is a lot of misconception in that part, because a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong if you really want to go back to school. Like I know, for example, one person I can mention is Graciela. Her story, she felt she wanted to, she felt she needed to just kind of take that extra master because it gave her confidence, and she felt she needed it. But I think a lot of people um, go that route because they think it's required. And the
Mhm.
difference, the reason why I point out Graciela's story is because I think she knew she didn't needed it, but she kind of personally wanted to do that. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? But I think most of the time is the lack of understanding on what is really needed in that process. This happened to me in my own process because I started with what we call the standard path for immigrants, which is like you get your your education evaluated with an ESA through NAP. And then when that's approved, then you start, like, you report all your hours of experience that are required, either partly international or not. And then you take the exams. It's like those the three steps, pretty much the
Yeah.
basic three steps, right? Education, experience, and exams. But I, as a foreign architect who had hold a license in a foreign country, I could have opted for the foreign architect path, which is different, it's shorter, it's faster. I don't have to get my education evaluated and all that kind of stuff. And what happened was I started in the standard pass first, and I made a lot of mistakes with that because translating all the paperwork for evaluating your education was like super long, expensive, and all that kind of stuff. Like, I got quotes, and like the cheapest quotes for translated the book for the ESA was like almost $10,000. Actually, I think a
Wow.
little over $10,000. And the problem with that is it's not just your transcripts that they evaluate. Every class that you take, it has like this description and objective and all that. It's like a
Mhm.
1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages sometimes of like a same program.
Yeah.
That's what they want for every class. So if your bachelor's and master's were like super long like mine, I had like 400, 500 pages to translate. Just think about
Yeah.
that craziness. Collecting them, because like most of the time these schools don't have all the paperwork like together and like ready for you to submit, and then it's not translated, and it's just mess. So then after I was about to register for a college, because what happened was I got my EASE evaluation back with a deficiency of six. It was 6 credits, 3 credits for English, which I could just take an exam, comprehension exam or something, and
Mhm.
3 credits for codes and regulations. But they told me to take the codes and regulations as a master degree class because I was trying to um, accredit my master's too, not just the bachelor's. So
Yeah.
that 3 credits needed to be a master's. So just that class for one semester was like over $3,000. And I'm like,
Mhm.
it's just like, and I'm thinking of the money and the time, like you have to go back to school and, take exams and all. I don't know.
Yeah.
When I was given the opportunity of taking the foreign architect path, and they were like, you don't need the ESA for that. I'm like, you know what? I don't care that I already spent this part of the money. I just don't want to have to go back to school and paying $3,000 more. Like, I was just done. And I just switched, and then like they sent 2 forms to one to my board of architecture in the DR, and one to my college. And then when those forms were back to them, I was approved. And then I reported my hours. I completed the hours that are required to be under an architect in the States, which is halfway
Mhm.
there, and the other halfway I reported from the DR. And as I was in this job that I worked for years, I kind of completed those hours as I was taking the exams, and that was it. But it was really a rocky process because of the lack of knowledge. And I want to clarify, a lot of people say, like, nobody knows anything, nobody tells you anything. To be honest, all of the information is out there. The problem that I feel that there is like a gap between sometimes between NCARB and NAP and some of the boards of
Mhm.
architecture on different states, like the New York state is pretty kind of hard to deal with sometimes. New Jersey is pretty complicated for some people too, and I'm talking complicated for foreign architects especially.
Yeah.
It's because sometimes the way things are written doesn't translate to us. And the
Mhm.
best example I can give you is like the reason why I started in the standard path instead of the foreign architect path was in the my NCART record, there is a tab that everybody has. It says registrations. And I didn't know what that was. Like registration to what? To like an event? Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna register for an event? Like I didn't understand what that was. I didn't understand that that meant a license. And I never put that I had a license in the Dominican Republic because I didn't understand that that's what they were asking for. Now, when I was on the phone talking to somebody, I went out talking to this NCARB customer service representative, and I said, and I have my license in there. And she's like, I don't see that in your record. Why don't you put it? I'm like, I don't know where to put it. And she's like, in the registration tab. That's what registration means. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that's what it meant. And I found that a lot of immigrant architects and immigrant professionals, emerging professionals, experience the same. They don't know
Mhm.
that registration means license, and they don't put it there because they didn't know, and they waste a lot of time going through other path versus the foreign architect path, which will apply to them if they hold that license. So my point is, it was just kind of like rocky. Like I started the process end of 2015, kind of like trying to start like gathering information. Really formally, I started early 2016, and I got my license 2019 because I started taking the exam. It took me about a year and 8 months taking all of the exams and passed them. But like the first initial time of like figuring things out and translating and all that, it was just like so confusing for me. And I know one of the questions that you probably want to address is like how the foreign architect group that I started. And this is the reason why. It's because I was so frustrated with my own process and all the money and all the
All the
time that I
time. Yeah.
yes, it's money. Time is money and money is money, and I wasted both. So just like think about the repercussions on like my personal, family time and other things I wanted to do. So that's why I started that group because I'm like I'm tired of like not having kind of like for people like me enough guidance. And again, like I might not know the specific answer to a specific case, but I'm hoping that in that group someone else can chime in and help too.
Yeah, definitely. Because I more know the standard process, and like even people in the States understanding you need to go to a university that is accredited is
Mhm.
hard for people to even realize you need to do that. So even people in the States don't get an approved education, and then they just give up on their licensure path altogether because they find that's the only one, and they don't want to go back to school because it's a lot of time and money.
Yeah.
But
And
the
I and this is funny that you mentioned that because this is one of the things that happened to me when I came in 2015. I met a person, and I mentioned this actually in my book, where someone told me in the very beginning of my process, someone told me, oh, don't even try to get your license. Like your education and your experience here is like worth nothing. And like I know so many people that even went to school here and have never gotten their license. Like don't even try. Like you're not gonna get it. And I remember coming back home like heartbroken, sorry, and just kind of
Mhm.
like crying and feeling like so defeated. I'm like, man, I fell in love with this guy, and we decided coming to the States thinking I was just gonna transfer my business here. And like now it's like I cannot even call myself an architect. I'm not gonna be able to get the license. Like, can I even practice architectural law? Like, what am I gonna end up working in something else, like in a restaurant or something because of this personal life decision I made? Nothing wrong with working in a restaurant, but it's not what I wanted,
Yeah,
you know?
especially when you owned your own practice down in the
Yes.
Dominican Republic and then coming over, it's taking a back step and then
Yeah.
resetting, and that takes time.
Yeah, and my point is the same way. The reason why I mentioned this story is because the same way that happened to me, it happens to a lot of people. Because one of the things that most of immigrant architects experience is that they come to the States and there's no one else around them, no friends or family that work in architecture that can guide them through the correct process.
my husband's company brought in an Italian expat, and he didn't bring over his whole family right away. So we were checking on holidays, even if it wasn't an Italian holiday. But if everybody was off, we always just checked, hey, are you going somewhere? Were you invited? And he was generally invited to places, but we'd always fill the gaps. So nobody was left alone, especially if
Yeah.
everywhere else is closed. It's like you can't really go
Especially because
out.
those days is when like it really hits you. You
Yeah.
know?
And then you
Yeah.
miss home, miss your family
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So what's something with the Foreign Architects Facebook group is something you've learned after opening that group?
Oh, I've learned how much I don't know. It is like the more I know, the more I realize of how much I don't know. It's just like the, the the beauty of this group is that we don't have just people from like one region. It's
Hmm.
like we have people from literally all over the world. It's just like it's so broad. It's over 2,500 members right now. It's actually pretty active. Group It's a pretty active group because people, they are constantly asking questions, trying to find mentorship, trying to understand how to do this or that step. But I think one of the things I've learned the most um, is that there's just like a lot of complexity for any individual case. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of challenges that people face that sometimes are not even related to the United States. Sometimes it's related to the specific school they went in their home country that may not apply to someone else from that same country, but that went to a different school or that might live in a different region. Like, I know people that are from Brazil and they can be from different cities in Brazil that went to different schools in Brazil. So everything can be just so different for everybody. And like the way those easy evaluations come back can be, some people are like me that get like 6 credits because most of the time people get English. I don't know why.
If
Like, I guess like if it's not shown in your
it's not shown properly, then it
like
like,
if it doesn't says that you took some credits of English in your gosh, your transcripts is what I'm trying to say. Um, then they will include it. But then there's people that besides that will have like, and codes and regulations is obviously to another one because it's like codes are so different here.
yeah.
But then there's people that will have like 20 something credits, 30 credits, and it's like they really need to go back to school because of like so many credits are left out. And one thing, this is maybe a better way to give you like a straight answer to that question. One thing that I've learned is that sometimes translation is key
Hmm.
because some people that have gone to similar or same schools can come with very different ISA evaluation deficiencies in their
Hmm.
whole scene. And it's because I think like the translator didn't use the correct words to kind of like help the evaluator understand that this one class actually can be accredited for this one requirement. And the candidate can be kind of a little bit like low on credits because of that, which
Hmm.
to me sometimes comes down to was the translation good? But like, what can you do about that? Like, you don't control that because the candidate cannot even touch those documents. Those are sent to the translator, and the translator send it directly to NAP or NCAR. So
Yeah. Or if the translator doesn't have like an architecture design background, because even just talking to people that aren't in our industry, we have a very different language and
mm,
that translates to school. But if you're not used to it, it's a whole nother language barrier.
yeah, like people can translate. Like when you're talking about projects, they might say job or something when you're like really trying to talk about projects or the
Hmm.
works or something like that, and just it doesn't translate well. So that's something that I've learned is like how this can affect people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know I've joined the Foreign Architects Facebook group. I am not a foreign architect, but I am there just to watch and learn and see what other people's stories are, any struggles, and just learn about that process. Because again, it was nothing I had to deal with. And so I want to be able to help people going through the process themselves. So welcome back. And I want to now introduce you to Alexandra Chaves. She is episode number 8. She is not licensed, but she works as a project manager for a small firm out in Austin, Texas. And so we talk about leveraging your network. And so, as much as she's still pursuing her licensure and getting to be a registered architect, it is all about finding the professionals around you that you enjoy working with and that you have a passion. So, beyond just trying to get a job anywhere, Alexandra really talks about finding a firm, a boss, and coworkers that you really enjoy working with so you can have that passion and drive behind being an architect. So, this is Alexandra Chavez, again, episode number 8, and hopefully you learn a lot about mentorship, growth, and career advice from Alexandra.
Just go for it. Go for whatever career you want to do. Don't be afraid to fail. I think failure or rejection too. Don't be afraid of rejection, because I feel like that's what a lot of immigrants come in and are finding themselves as part of, like, oh yeah, I need to do all these things. Because back home, if I would just continue and finish my degree in Venezuela, I would have just like, okay, here's your degree, and then you just go to the College of Architecture and you just sign up and you're an architect. Here you have to study, to get licensed. Even though you are a registered architect somewhere else, you still have to go through all of the exams that everybody goes through in order to actually stamp your drawings. But yeah, don't give up. Get those rejections, move around, go around with the path of, you never know. On the WIA Austin, we've been having some virtual panels to inspire college students. And the last panel was talking about pathways. And it was a lot about how certain people that have gone to architecture and are architects themselves are now not working as an architect per se. So that was super eye-opening, that even if you have the human aspect of being an architect, you don't have to work in a traditional architectural setting, but your architectural degree can still, teach you and lead you to where you want to go. And there was a person that was that is an architect, works at Gensler, but then he branded to the branding department in Gensler and helping branding some of their projects, which were only in their bigger offices, and he brought it to like the Austin office. And then there was somebody that worked at Tesla that was an architect. And then there was somebody that worked at Icon, the new 3D startup company here in Austin that is a 3D printing company, but she did robotics too, besides being an architect. So I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm joining the meeting not only to learn what the students can like, because again, students and other immigrants, people, the path might take you somewhere, because coming from where you came from, maybe you have to make sacrifices and go back to the profession, but doesn't mean you cannot go back to that profession. So
you can always pivot. Like, I started this company because I love teaching in the human side, but I can still be an architect. I'm kind of doing both.
Yeah, so it's okay to take the weird road. Yeah, because you're still part of it. And always, you always get involved. Like, look for mentors, get networking. I think that goes back to where you wanted to be. It doesn't mean that you're, again, because I know it's hard. I come from Venezuela, or who knows, Colombia, Ecuador, and I want to work in architecture, but maybe you need to, wear out your path in order to get back to it and pursue your interest. Don't, put yourself out there and do it. Yeah. So don't be disregarded because you're an immigrant. Just do it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, I know I had Gloria on. Hers posted, I think this week at the time of us talking. And she spoke a lot about the Immigrant Architects Facebook group and the Immigrant Architects Coalition. And it's enlightening to see what people outside the US have to deal with or adjust to, because I grew up in the States, and so I was getting questions from immigrants, and I'm like, okay, I can at least put you guys in the right direction to who to talk to, but finding that network to help along the way is important.
Yeah, I think either that or Argentina too is another one
Mhm.
if you're women
Yeah.
specific. I know that's women specific, but yeah, I recently there was a Latinas in Architecture here in Austin call that they had Graciela, who is one of the actual founders of the Immigrant Architects Coalition, and I just joined because I wanted to learn about it too. There's so much um, programming or so much different types of groups that can help immigrants succeed here in the States. So yeah, get in touch with any of us.
Any
I
and
would say
everybody.
yes. We're all at the end of the day, even though we're in different parts of the world. If it wasn't for thankfully to the pandemic, we wouldn't be doing anything like this. Interviews by Zoom or
Yeah.
videos or that that can open your eyes that you can still do stuff without wherever you are in the world.
Yeah. And I know Restructure is a small firm. Do you have advice for other people in small firms that may need to look outside their office to find mentors?
Yes, why not? Yeah, it is true. Yeah, I have Karina as my mentor, but I feel like that's what I got involved into the AIA wherever I was. I did the
Mhm.
AIAS when I was in college in SCAD in Savannah, and that's how I led. And then from there, I went to New York. I did get involved a little bit with the AIA New York, and not as much as I've been involved here in Austin. But yeah, always getting in. Again, for me, when I got involved with women in architecture, specifically in the AIA Austin, was just pre-pandemic. And one of the first thoughts that I wanted is like, besides knowing who are the chair and co-chair for every committee, because they always are, that's who you see front face. It's like the
Mhm.
president. But there's all these people behind it that always makes it run. Because again, a president doesn't run the country by himself. There's all these committees,
Yeah.
and the same thing happens in every single committee that you join. So to me, one of the the things that I wanted to know is like, who are the people who volunteer? Who are the sponsors that want to sponsor these committee? Who are the leaders? So that's when I approach WIA, and at the current time it was Jess Deaver running it, and she had a film background on it. And one of the things that I approached her, I was like, we need to do videos of who are these people. We need to interview
Mhm.
them. And it went to a different thing, and that's how the Profiles video interview series for women in architecture was founded, which I founded with my husband. And we go and interview women leaders around the community, and we have been getting names and names, and now we're building up a list of things. And then that's what I would say, mentors have been, I have found new mentors, and I have been able to pair people with mentors that they needed because of that interviews and that like conversations about, you can have mentors in your office, but you always would, it's always good to see what else is in your community that might benefit you to in your career path. So it doesn't mean that, in a residential firm, in a small firm, it's you can only find mentors in your firm. You always should look for local chapters, look like places like Immigrants Architects Coalition, Argentina, all of these people, no matter where they are, they can mentor you remotely.
All right, welcome back. And now I want to jump over to introduce you to Graciela Carrillo, episode number 47. And she actually practices architecture on the public side of architecture. So you can do private projects, public projects, or a mix of both. So public is a little bit more government projects, whereas private are more individuals that are um, going after their own work to build architecture. So, anyway, jumping into the public side of practice, Graciela talks about why she went into the public side and practicing architecture over there and being able to have a little bit better work life balance and integration with all the other initiatives that she is working on. So, let's jump over and learn a little bit from Graciela. And again, she was episode number 47. I wanted to shift over to the Immigrant Architects Coalition that you mentioned earlier.
Yay!
So, how did what's the story behind how that started and what you guys are working towards with that?
It's a beautiful story. It started in 2019. Young Law contacted me. He's like, Graciela, and we knew each other because of the Young Architects Forum. I was the yard, the representative for New York in 2017 and 18, and he was at large strategic council. I'm sorry, at large Young Architect Forum representative. So he contacted me in 2019, so like 2 years after we met at the forum, and he's like, Graciela, I want to put together a session about immigrants for the Vegas conference. How about if we do something? I'm like, let's do it. So we found a third person, Shahaz Sadek. She was based in Dallas at that time. And we were like, let's talk about immigrant architects. So we put together the session, each of us from a very different perspective. Yunlok, he's owner of his own firm. He's in California. I was at that time working in consulting in New York, and I was licensed. And she was an associate at that time and working at Smith Group at that time. So we were talking about licensure, cultural bias, opening your own firm, immigration, a bunch of different topics in 90 minutes. And that session was on a Saturday at like 9 in the morning, where you know that people don't go to those sessions because after the party, everybody's hangover or it's super early. They don't want to go. The room was absolutely packed. We did a poll and 80%, 90% of the room were immigrants. And when we finished the session, you know how everybody leaves?
Mm-hmm.
You know, no, they stay. They kick us out. They're like, you got to go. We have another session. And they stayed. They were making a line. We have pictures of people lining up to talk to us. So when we left that, we realized there was really that need of that support group. We said AIA has a lot of support groups, committees, but we don't have an immigrant community per se.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of immigrants, but we're just spread out everywhere. So we said, let's start the Immigrants Architects Coalition just to start the conversation. And we just started very informal by just giving lectures at different chapters, universities, organizations. And it was just that at the beginning. So as we kept talking about our experiences and giving advice to people, more people will come to us for help. Oh, I need help. I can find a job, or I'm miserable in my job, or I'm having issues with immigration. It was different things that we were contacted for. So in 2021, I believe, we were like, why don't we publish a book with different stories? So when people read them, maybe they can find some relation with the same story, and they can contact that person if they're struggling in something in their life. So we did that. We had a bunch of amazing architects, and we call it designers because some of them don't have a license here. They have a license in their own country, but not here. So we call the book City Shapers, Stories of Immigrant Designers. And they are from around the world, and they are also everywhere, like throughout the States. So we started with that book, and we had a really good review from people. They were really excited. We hosted several book signings for that book. And then this year, we decided to create another book, which is the Prospering in the U.S., a handbook for immigrant architects. And that one, what talks about, is like a roadmap since the day you arrive to this country until maybe you're going to open your firm. So it's sort of like advising you on what to do from the beginning. We talk about education, licensure, the importance of getting involved with community and organizations, how to get a job or experiences going to interviews, preparing your resume, portfolio, then also work-related topics, cultural bias too, and then getting your own firm, like opening your own firm. So, and we talk about also marketing. It's like super, super broad, but it talks about everything from an immigrant architect perspective, because of course our experiences are completely different as an American experience. So yeah, no, that book was awesome. We did a book signing at the past AIA 24 in Washington, DC, and we sold out. It was a really great experience. We had 18 book co-authors at that book signing. There are 24 book co-authors in this last book, and from those we had 18 in Washington. So that was a great experience.
Yeah. And there's so many things that, as somebody who's not an immigrant, there's a lot of stuff that I just check a box whenever I'm filling out different forms that I don't even think twice about it. But then when you can understand people in a different lens, you can understand some of the things that aren't so simple anymore. So I guess from starting a company, do you have to have a green card by that point to start a business in the US and start a firm? Like, what's that
It all
barrier?
depends. That's the thing. It all depends on where you are doing that. So that's the beauty of this country.
Because it's like, I'm thinking of like, okay, what forms did I fill out when I made MentorDINO a business? And I'm like trying to remember, but anything would have just been like simple checkboxes since I'm from the States. So now I want to like go back and take a look.
Yeah, no, it depends on where you file documents. We incorporated the Immigrant Architects Coalition here in New York State, so it's on my name. So on that form, I don't remember having to check any box that says that I'm a citizen, but you have to have your social security number, and you have to register the incorporation with a tax number too. So it depends of each state. So I cannot tell you what the general rule is. It's like the same as licensure. Like you think that because you're licensed, like in Colombia, you're licensed in Colombia and it's Colombia, not Bogota.
Yeah.
But here you are licensed in New York because it's not the same as Florida or California or any other state. So that's why I say it's the beauty of this country that each state has its own rules. It's not like a general rule for the country, which most of the countries work like that. It's a general rule for everything.
Yeah. And so I guess that's important for anybody coming over. It's really do the research on maybe a couple states if there's a few, and just see what your circumstances and what the rules within those states are to figure out if there's an easier path, I guess, or at least less barriers, less paperwork, bureaucracy that you have to get through to, especially if you're licensed in another country already, like, I would feel you'd already proved yourself there, that it's like, okay, I have to start over in some sense. And that can be hard.
Yeah. When people contact me and like, what do I need to do to get licensed in the US? I'm like, the first question I do, where? Where are you planning to come? If you don't tell me a specific state, I cannot tell you if your education is going to be validated or not, depending on your license or not. So we need to know where you're planning to go. And also within the states, we have sort of like identify which are the states that are much easier for immigrants to get licensed. So we always tell them, go to Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia apparently is very good in like accepting the foreign architect path for NCARB. I'm sure there are other states that are the same situation. I would like to identify those states so I can have more answers to people. But I think that's a homework that we will have to do internally.
Yeah. And even just where they're coming from. I know I had a great conversation from somebody that came over from Russia, and it was just easier for her to go get her master's in the States, because trying to get all of the paperwork from two countries that aren't really getting along sometimes. So it's, hey, the path I need to take because where I'm coming from, I need to go down this route to make it simpler in that process.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
And I know you also had scholarship opportunities with the IAC. So how's that been going, adding scholarships to it?
Yeah, so this year we launched our first scholarship for students, for international students specifically. And it was the first time we launched it, and we received an amazing amount of applications. We got almost 50 applications, which is a lot.
Yeah.
We're just a small group. Like, I didn't even think we would have that outreach, even though we send it to many universities, but we never thought that we were going to get that big response. So we had one scholarship, unfortunately just one, because we're poor, we don't have that much money. But as we are growing, all the funds that we collect, like we fundraise, are for scholarships. So next year, we're going to start, besides the students' scholarship, we're going to launch a scholarship for immigrants going through the ARE process, because every single penny helps. So we're going to do that next year. And we are also planning to launch a mentoring program. And the reason why we want to do a mentoring program, even though AIA has mentoring programs, NOMA has mentoring, Argentina has the mentoring for Latinas, there are no mentoring for immigrants by immigrants. So when you are mentored by someone that has your own background or similar, it's a different experience when you are mentored by an American. I value both perspective, and every time I talk to someone that is looking forward to find mentors, I always tell them, don't stick to just with one mentor. Always have a pool of them, because that's what brings value to you. Have different perspectives helping you out. So I always tell people, go to these different organizations, go into those mentoring programs. But if we offer this immigrant to immigrant mentoring, it's going to be a different experience. And I think that's going to help a lot of people that really need that guidance and more understanding of what they're going through.
Yeah. And even just having different types of people and different levels too, when you're trying to find a mentor, is important. So even if NOMA has their own program and Argentina, which we didn't even talk about yet, I think it's still important to have that, because you are always trying to find community in this world and just people to talk to. So like, you could be in both Argentina and a mentoring program with the IAC, and it's still bring a lot of value, because it can give different perspectives, different situations. So, and just connections to people that can become lifelong friends, or just people to poke around with different ideas or as life changes. So,
yeah.
And Argentina does a great job with a mentoring program, because I always see the cohorts are always full every year, and there's always people on wait lists to be in. So that's what's a little bit going on over there if anybody's looking to get involved in Argentina.
So we are actually, the registration for the next cohort, the fall cohort, is open right now. The due date is coming up in a few weeks from now. The requirement is that you need to have an open NCARB record, and you have to actually be testing. Like, we actually look at that, because if you're not testing, you're not going to get full advantage of the mentoring cohort. So that's why if we have openings, we may let people that are not testing enter, but like you said, is always at full capacity. So we try not to do a very large group, because when it's too large, then that, you lose that connection. When we have meetings where everybody shows up, mentors and mentees, it's too many people. So people tend, like the shy person tend not to speak, and we want everyone to participate. So it's doing a great job. We have, I don't know what's the percentage now of the mentees that have joined the program and have get their license, but we have a few, and now they become mentors. So all those Latinas that got their license while during Argentina time, now they are mentors, and that's absolutely amazing, because it's like that fresh blood. I did my license a long time ago. I still mentor because I still can do it, but when they have specific questions about specific areas, I'm like, you know what? Let's just check with someone that just tested, because I don't want to misguide you.
Yeah, because it's always evolving.
It's
Like, I took the last version of the exam, and I can give some guidance, but there's some questions that's, yeah, let's go find somebody that just took that version, because they did a big change going from 4.0 to 5. So welcome back, and I got one more Latina I want to introduce you to. And this one is Luciana Braga Triplett. She was episode number 93, and she is a firm owner up in Boston. So we talk about, for her, it was about going through layoffs to what introduced her to starting her own business, and what it means to practice architecture in multiple countries, starting your own firm, and really helping other architects that are coming into the industry from different countries and building up their professional mentorship, advice, and learning the codes and how we build in the United States versus how construction is done in other countries. So I hope you enjoy this clip from Luciana. And again, she was episode number 93.
The funny part is, everybody calling me was not about hiring me, it was about, are you guys hiring? Like, the recession was so bad for our industry at that time. They're like, they want to work for me. I was like, no, you don't understand. I'm trying to get to work. But out of this, one client, somebody he used to work at Stephen Brothers, uh, like contact me, and he's like becoming the greatest clients, like always bringing us work, always. So this is what I think. When you do good work, you don't need a thousand clients. It's all about focusing on the ones that are really appreciate you and do good job for them. So our network, my husband of new people, everybody that was he worked before started hiring us to do renderings too. So we're doing renderings for schools, for like houses, for all kinds of projects. It was like and we did for Test and Bride, we did also all the projects later for office space. So what helped me a lot, and I tell everybody, is like stay in the business. I always learn. I did not stop learning, even though I wasn't in the office. I was doing my own thing. Actually, I grew so much because I had to learn how to create my logo, a website, uh, do business meetings, like all the stuff. And I always dealing with the principals there. So that was that sense that was like, I own my firm, you own the firm. So it's like before, it's like I was the draft in the firm. Like now, we're like, it was a great experience, to be honest. So yeah, at that time, so then I realized I got one project, and this client, I don't know if I should say his name, but he has a big architecture firm here, and they needed somebody to actually do the interior design for one of his projects. So he knew I do renderings, but he didn't have the project yet. But he wanted to sell the project to his client, was a school. So he asked me if I could design also the spaces and stuff. So I put my soul in that project. I was like, I realized how emotional I got about designing again, and that hit me. It's like, okay, I need to go back to this. I know I could be very successful doing the 3D rendering business and all that, but it was not my passion. I'm a designer. I chose architecture to be a designer, and that's when I realized like I need to get serious about getting licensed, because if I go back to a firm, it will be like it's not what I wanted to do. What I'm saying? Like I always want to have the opportunity to have my vision, and and the design ideas that I have, that I care about so deeply, So that's when I got started. My kids were already like starting kindergarten. So I was like, okay, now they're gonna have a fixed schedule.
Schedule.
You'll see. Like it makes a huge difference. Like, before like what? All over the place. So you never know how much sleep you're gonna get, what's gonna happen. So yeah, that's when I start realize like, yeah, I should get a license because that's the only way. Also, I was working for him, but sorry, I forgot to mention it. When I started Triple Studio initially was the 3D rendering, but I also did a lot of freelance like work for architects that needed the 3D set, like because I knew how to do that. So the firm that I worked before the residential, so
Yeah.
they started hiring me part time and just giving me work. So it's just like here, and he knew I had kids, like young kids, and he was like, do your own time. So it's very flexible. And think about this before COVID. There was none of that before. There was like, I remember even to leave a little early to pick up my kid at daycare, it was like people would be looking at me like, where are you going? Like, like they're supposed to work until at least 5:30. And that was a problem before for me. So when I got that opportunity to keep working, doing my own thing, but helping like working in a factory firm without being there, like I could sometimes when the project got a little bigger, he would hire me as a part-time person, and I would go
Hmm.
twice a week, which wasn't too bad, So I could leave early and all that. So yeah, this
Yeah.
this is the thing, we adapt, and I gotta say, my husband did not have the flexibility because he went back to work in a firm. But when COVID happened, everything changed, So he was finally home and was able to help me to like kind of with the kids, because they were doing a lot of activities and there was a lot of, how the
Yeah.
singing, dancing, the playing game, like soccer. They start soccer at 3, so they've been doing those things forever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he went back and worked at a firm while you started your own.
we started together, but he got hired by Airstreet, and he's still
Hmm.
there since then. So like 15 years now. I don't know. I lost count, but yeah, it was much better because of the benefit. Like one of us needed like stable income because it was like what, like all over the place, and it's not easy to have that kind of uncertainty.
Yeah.
So my mind is still like that, but at least we know like we can count on him. But I'm better at planning the long plan. Like once you own your firm, you know that you have to plan. Like when you have money, you always like spread it out, for
Hmm.
what happened next month. So you never know. And you never know, like, there's a problem, the project's going to stop, or the money's not going to come. All kinds of things can happen, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. And it can happen in the bigger firms too. Hence
Oh,
how the recession happened and COVID. Like,
yeah.
you never
How
know.
many,
You can only plan so far in advance.
how many projects I worked in the firm that did not happen? Like, tons of it, because things happen and the money wasn't there and the client changed his mind. And anyway, it's normal. I think in our field, it's kind of bad to say. Even my husband, he worked in so many projects, amazing projects that still waiting. They don't know what's gonna.
Hmm.
It could happen tomorrow, and back to everything that they were doing a couple years ago. But
Yeah. But for them, they got to like move a lot of people around. Like for
yeah,
you, at least it's like, okay, I can pivot and be a little agile if the client wants to hold off for a couple months or see how something turns out.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
So it's a lot to say because I just know, like that's not. It's not an easy like you plan for one thing and things happen. And you just have to adapt. That's part of life. And But one thing I knew, I did not want to change the industry. I had the opportunity, I had offers to, and that's the only thing I know is like, I don't know how to do anything else.
yeah.
This is how I see myself. And that's one of the reasons it was such a part of my identity to be an architect that being in this country, not being able to say I'm an architect, like I'm a designer because of the license part, it was so hard. Like, okay, I need to get this like done so I can call myself an architect.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any advice for those that are studying and are dealing with young kids at home? Like,
Well,
how
I
did you
knew
manage
you
that?
would not wait. You do it sooner. Because I think, to be honest, there was a lot of changes in the past few years that helped women, especially because the rolling clock is gone. It hit me. So I could tell not a half hour, just that, because I had to pretty much start over when I went to the new system.
Mhm.
Um, but also the fact that I mean, this is huge because if you start your process and you decide to have a baby in the middle, God forbid, like you take some years off and want to go back. So that's a big thing. They reduced the number of hours. When I was taking the exam, I started a long time ago. It was 5,800, something like way more, which is also a good thing. And the other thing is, we were not allowed to start taking the exams until we were done with the hours to the internship, which is crazy because that's when
Mhm.
exactly when women are hitting like a certain age of like getting married, having like now, why not finish school? No responsibilities. You don't have big like you have to pay your mortgage or anything like that. So you take time to study. It's too fresh. The ideas, like whatever you
Mhm.
learn, it's different when you take 10 years and like that. You know what I'm saying? So I tell everybody, if you can, don't wait. If you
Yeah.
do have kids, try to do small amounts of study in your routine, even though like it adds up. You'll be amazed how like even like yeah, some people can study 2 3 hours every day, but that's rare if you have kids and
Yeah.
study. So juggling these things is like one of the hardest things. So that's what I did in the beginning. I wasn't like focused, but it would take me forever to do the exam because I was studying. By the time I finished reading everything that I had to read, it was like 6 months. Like, I'm exaggerating, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like the same pace that I should be doing. Um, yeah. So, but it's better than nothing because you're always learning. You're always with the mindset of like absorbing information, and whenever you focus and you say, okay, this is not really gonna focus, you're not starting from scratch. You already have
Yeah.
all the background and the learning in your parents. So, and it helps you for career too. Like, why not study early so you can grow? Like, people know you're knowledgeable. People come to you in the office because they know you can do stuff.
Mhm.
Like you don't have to be asking questions like about fire rating walls because you know how to open the building code and find out. Like things like that. If you don't have a mentor or somebody in the office that'll be willing to take the time to explain to you, that's the good thing about the ARE. Like you learn that on your own because you sit. I learned so much, even though I had all these years of experience. I was like, this is so different than what I do, and especially
Mhm.
when you do residential. I tell everybody like, try to work in a firm that does all the kinds of projects because the exams are more about the ISC, like the IBC, sorry, the
Mhm.
international getting code, not the residential getting code. So if you can get that experience in the beginning so you're more familiar with what's in the exam. And I
Yeah.
noticed that if you only do residential, it restricts you, like in the kind of project you've done so that's another advice that I would give is like try to get that in the beginning sooner. And then you can change later and do smaller firms later. But I think I don't know, I think that helps, in general.
Yeah, because I know when I started the AREs and the hours, they had switched it so I could start taking the exams, and I actually got my exams done before my hours. But it was nice because you would learn things, and then it would come up in the office, and you're like, "Oh, I know what that is," and now you have a story behind it, or then you start getting further in your study, and you're like, "Wait, I have a story about that. It's happened to me before."
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
it's kind of full circle, but I didn't realize not until the last couple years, which I've been licensed for a while, but I started my career in commercial and I've mainly done commercial work and not realizing that how much the AREs are focused on commercial projects and the IBC until I started talking to residential architects. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed learning from all the Latinas in this episode, and feel free to check out other episodes because I've had other Latinas in architecture on the MentorDINO podcast. But for those that were on the episode today, again, it was Gloria Kloter, episode number 3, Graciela Carrillo, episode number 47, Alexandra Chaves, episode number 8, and Luciana Braga Triplett, episode number 93. So I hope you enjoy learning from all 4 of these fantastic women in architecture and helping be an inspiration to you if you are a Latina looking to study architecture, or just a woman in architecture in general, because these 4 ladies are amazing and great mentors of mine now. I hope you enjoyed our discussion today. Learn some advice to take with you and see how our industry is all tied together to create the world around us. Check out the description below for any links or resources we discussed. If you liked the episode, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support finding that career path that best works for them. If you know someone that has inspired your own career that you'd like me to interview, let me know in the comments below, or you can reach out to me via my website or LinkedIn. I'd be happy to share their story or your own. Thank you again, and I cannot wait for the next career story I get to share with you next week.